Happy Monday, everybody. It's time for another edition of Ask Mike. Courtney Mims alongside Mike Irwin here. And Mike, we're going to get into it, but we've got baseball, we've got football, and we've got also some basketball that we're going to talk about in this week's episode. Yeah, whatever we can talk about with basketball. I'm a little annoyed with the lack of news there, but let's get into it. But before we do, as always, remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel. If you want us to continue this show, do us a favor, help us out, okay? Put a comment in there as well. Yeah. We love reading your comments. We love seeing all the discourse in the comments too over if you agree with me, if you agree with Mike. It's great. We love it. We love to read it. So our first question is from WV Hog Fan, who asks, why are there so many hit batsmen in college baseball? One came back to haunt us just yesterday.
Okay, let's start off by saying that you've looked into it.
I have, yes.
And there's no evidence that there's a higher number of percentage-wise hit batsmen in the college level than in the Major League Baseball. I know going all the way back 1,000 years ago when I played Little League and then later Babe Ruth, I got beamed in the head all the time. And we didn't have these helmets that had the little thing down around your jaw.
Okay.
It was just a little helmet, so if you got smacked up right here, it would just smack you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, how bad was that?
Well, I mean, they weren't throwing 90 miles an hour.
So
they were throwing about 60, and it would just go boink.
Still probably didn't feel good, though.
Didn't feel good, but, I mean, that's just a part of it. Now, what he's referring to is Game 3, Sunday, against Georgia, in which Arkansas had this miracle comeback, in which they had a pair of home runs. They were down 2 in the ninth, and came back and tied this thing up so it goes extra innings. And then in the 10th, they go up by a run. And so you've got Aiden Jimenez on the mound, right?
Yep.
He's arguably Arkansas's hottest pitcher right now, and he was pitching for the second time that weekend and was doing a great job. But he gets to where there's 2 outs, so you're 1 out away from winning this game. And he's got this guy, Rylan Zaborski, coming up, and he was 0 for 4 on the day with 3 strikeouts. And a lot of fans have made a big deal out of the fact that apparently Helfrich, he waved off whatever Helfrich asked for the first pitch and threw his own pitch. And I don't know how they know what that other pitch was going to be, but they're saying that's when he made the mistake because he came inside on him, clearly was trying to tie him up as you come in here and you're trying to bat and you swing, and he's trying to get him to do that, and he comes in too close and beans him. And why does that happen? I mean, if you're a pitcher, you should know that, right? I mean, not every pitch goes exactly where you throw it. Sometimes just a little thing can happen with your arm action, with your hand, or whatever. It comes out wrong, and boink, you hit a guy. Normally that wouldn't be an issue, but this guy, they replaced him with a pinch runner, a guy that was really fast, and the next guy up hits a double into the gap, and the guy scores all the way from first. That ties the game up. Then they went to the 12th inning, and they hit a solo home run, and that was the end of the game.
Yep.
Okay, look, just stuff like that happens, you know? It's not,
that's baseball.
Oh, we've got hit batsmen and we got to correct this. I mean, it's not like that happens all the time. I'm sure that's happened before. I don't remember it, but the point is baseball is unpredictable. When I was sitting there and this guy comes to bat and they say he's 0 for 4, with 3 strikeouts, I'm going, God, he's striking everybody out. He'll get this dude. Yeah. And then the last thing you want to do is to hit him or walk him or anything like that. But I've seen that happen a lot over the years, where he's the very guy that you want to get out. Because up next is a guy you don't want to face, and what do? You walk him or you hit him. So it's just a thing, you know. It's just baseball. It frustrates you, but hey, it's just a weekend series. It's the first one they've lost all year.
Yeah, and you said it last week, the best. You said this series was going to test them. It definitely did. But they've got plenty of other SEC series coming up.
This is the halfway point. You got 15 games left.
Yeah, exactly. And you got to bounce back from it, right? So we'll see what they do, especially with Texas A&M coming to town. Eddie Lynn says, you've mentioned Van Horn's stubborn streak when managing pitchers. It's hard for me to believe that he can't see that Gackle needs to be moved back to the bullpen. He cost them the Saturday game at Georgia.
I do think he's got a point. Gackle went just 2 innings. He left Arkansas in a 5-1 hole, gave up 6 hits in that game, including a 2-run home run. Here's the thing, his ERA is up to 6.68 or something like that.
Oh.
That's unacceptable for a weekend starter in the SEC. But that was his first loss of the year. He was 2-0 before that. But that's still 3 decisions there. And with all he's pitched, what's going on there? Well, what's going on there is every time he got up in an SEC game, what did he have? He had them backing him up with tons of offense, and he had a good relief pitcher coming in and doing a good job. In this game, you didn't get enough runs to overcome what had happened. And so that does happen. Afterward, Dave Van Horn didn't actually come out and say that he was going to make a change there, but he pretty much said everything but that. And virtually everybody, including the play-by-play guy, Phil Elson, I was on the radio with him this morning, he thinks they'll make a change.
Yeah.
And so there's a change there that I think probably will help. You've probably got Gage Wood coming back in some way or form or another this week.
That would really help out with that decision.
So that gives you an extra guy. I don't think he's going to start this weekend, but I think they'll use him enough to know maybe they can do it the next weekend when you have to play Texas. So there's that. To me, the big question is, do you also replace Beetleshoids or whoever he is, Beetleshoes?
Why do you have so much trouble with
this
name?
Because it's just in my head.
Landon Beetleshoes.
Beetleshoes.
Yep, there you go. All right.
Boodle shoes, whatever. The question is whether or not they replace him too, because he hasn't had, his ERA is around 3.5. It's not 6. So I could see where you might stick with him, but see, he was part of the problem on Sunday. I mean, they scored most of their runs on him. I think he gave up 4 runs in 2 or 3 innings. So, you know, there may be 2 of these guys that they change before it's over.
I don't disagree with you there, because it does sound like from everything, again, Dave didn't say exactly what the change was, but he just kind of indicated that they're going to look at that starting pitching. And it'd be nice to get Gage Wood back. You know, we don't know anything for sure on him right now, but you know, there's been some talk that he could be back.
And Ben Bybee has looked really good lately, so it's not like they don't have some other options.
They do have some other options. You're exactly right. I think a change needs to happen. The Baseball America poll stinks. Popular Porkster says we lose 2 one-run games at Georgia after blowing them out on Friday, and we dropped to number 4 behind them in Tennessee. We have a better record than both. Ridiculous. And I will say this to Popular Porkster. Wasn't Baseball America the one where all the other polls were pretty much consensus on Arkansas?
They're the ones that are just loony.
Always out of, you know, I think they had Arkansas, down to 10 or? Oh, it was perfect game. Never mind. It wasn't baseball. I won't
imperfect game and baseball not in America.
Baseball not in America.
Those 2 kind of get it wrong, because he's right about that. I mean, first of all, they've got Arkansas behind. Well, obviously Texas is number 1, and they've got a 1-game lead over Arkansas. But then they've got Georgia up there, and Georgia's 2 games behind Arkansas, and Tennessee's 1 game behind Arkansas, and they got both of them in front of the Hogs. So I guess to them, conference record doesn't matter. But they're wrong, and it won't matter. But here's the thing. Regardless of what happens, and there's 15 SEC games left, regardless of what happens, what really matters in baseball, let's say you win the SEC championship. Let's say you win the SEC tournament championship, which Arkansas did, won both of them in 2021. Guess what happened? They didn't get out of their own super regional. They didn't go to Omaha.
Yeah.
So you would trade all of that to get to Omaha. And then even the way this fan base is right now with baseball, I'm telling you, they not only want you to get back to Omaha, they want you to get into the championship series, and they want you to win it. That's the goal. So anything beyond that, it doesn't matter in the regular season. It's what you do once postseason arrives. Yeah. I would not be surprised to see Dave Van Horn. Are they down to just 1 and out in the SEC tournament?
Yeah. This year the SEC tournament will be a single elimination.
I wouldn't be surprised if he pitches one of his low midweek guys and just goes out there and gets beat.
Why does it matter? That's the thing. If you already know that you are hosting a regional, if you've done what you've needed to do in the regular season, the SEC tournament is a liability. I mean, Dave's been talking about that for years.
Exactly.
I mean, other coaches have too, don't get me wrong, but Dave as well.
I think the whole thing is stupid. I think they shouldn't have an SEC tournament and just give everybody the week off. And
that would be great, right? But it's this.
You rest arms.
Money.
What's the attendance at that thing?
Oh, it does pretty well, I think, because when
LSU fans show up because they show up for everything.
They show up. I feel like years past they've done pretty well. The ballpark's been okay. I mean,
I've been there many times. I'm just like, what is this? Why are we here?
I just think now, if you're an Arkansas fan, because I know a lot of people hate that number 1 ranking, right? Arkansas's dropped to, I think, number 2
in most polls.
That's okay. I'd rather be, hey, get that target off your back. Because when you're number one, everybody's after you. So it's just, I think it's the curse of number one. I really do. I think they needed to get it off their backs. Cajun Hog asks, is it too late for the Ags to win the SEC? I'm sorry, this is great. Is it too late for the Ags to win the SEC in baseball? Mike, can I answer this? Yes. If so, they can still do a lot of damage to teams left on their schedule, like the Hogs.
Okay, A&M is 6-9 right now. They have won 5 straight SEC games with 15 to play. So if they won all 15 games.
There's no way, right?
But if they did,
okay,
they'd be 21-9. You know what Texas would have to do to beat them? Just go 9-6.
Oh my gosh.
You think Texas can't go 9-6 from here on out? Arkansas would have to go 10-5. I think both of them would still end up ahead of A&M.
Yeah.
Because I don't think A&M is going to win 15 straight.
No.
Now, here's the thing. The other part that he asks or makes points that he makes is valid.
Yes, yeah.
Because after this, we know that A&M plays Arkansas starting in a midweek or a Thursday
game, yeah.
Then they play Texas the week after that and LSU after that and Missouri and finally Georgia. So when you look at Arkansas, Texas, LSU, and Georgia, those are all 4 of those teams want to win the SEC and could conceivably do it. Well, you think that A&M playing all 4 of them is not going to decide how that – it depends on how you do against A&M,
yeah.
I think. Now, Tennessee is the other team that's still trying to win an SEC title. They've already played them and lost 2 of 3 at home. So, to me, if any of these other teams manage to win a series against them, they've already got a leg up.
Yeah.
And then you got to hope you don't get swept by them.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because they're that dangerous team right now.
And here's something else to consider. There's bad weather coming up this week. And I just talked to our weather people, and it's possible that Arkansas will play the Thursday game, which is on the SEC network, and have to play a doubleheader on Friday.
Oh.
If one of those games was to get canceled, I think it would benefit Arkansas, if provided they won one of those games. In other words, just split. Yeah. Or if they won the first 2 and didn't have to play the third one.
But they'll try and get that series, whole series.
I remember the last time the Aggies came in here. This is what you need to do if you're a Razorback fan. This is what you need to do if you have tickets to that game.
Okay.
Show up and harass these people, because what they do is they wander around doing weird stuff.
Well, the bubbles is
well,
really
but they
weird.
just walk around on the concourse. I tell them, sit down. You got a seat somewhere. Don't walk around on this concourse. You don't deserve to be able to do that. Sit down somewhere and keep your mouth shut. Don't let them come in here and do whatever Aggie things they do.
That's so funny to me. Mike, this could be really, really interesting to see what happens moving forward. It is the SEC, so you never know what could happen here.
But I agree with it that A&M could really ups. Here's what I think is going to happen. One of those teams is going to win a game against them, then win the next game, and then they're going to sweep, and then the bubble's going to burst, and A&M will go big back.
Well, it also affects the RPI, because Arkansas, I believe, is still number 1 in RPI right now, even after the series lost to Georgia. That's because Georgia is also up there in RPI. So it didn't really affect them that much, dropping 2 games. So I do think it will affect them. I could be wrong. But that's why this series is important. You don't want to drop in that RPI either. So Hog Redneck wants to know, what are your thoughts on Saturday's football scrimmage? What needs to improve in the red-white game that's coming up this Saturday?
You know, I plead guilty. I was off Saturday,
Mike,
and I didn't see it.
what are you doing?
Well, I didn't see it. I was off. I'm not going down there. I get my days off. I'm going to take them. And it wasn't televised, obviously, so I had to go by the stats and talk to people who were there.
Okay.
He didn't sound like any big deal. I mean, you can start with Taylon Green. What was he? Let me go down here and see what he was.
He ran for a touchdown.
I think he threw for 150 yards, completed 65% of his passes, and ran for one, but he didn't throw a touchdown pass.
Okay.
And he did have that one pick. You don't want him to be getting picks. Now, it was against Xavier Story, so probably he was going up against the ones, but you don't like to see that, okay?
Well, if it was up against Xavier, it was definitely up against the ones.
So let's look at K.J. Jackson, because he did throw 2 touchdown passes, ran for a few yards, but he didn't make any mistakes. And that's what I like about him. When you talk about, there was a lot of talk when Bobby Petrino had his press conference about being, like last year, you know, they knew what they had in their backup quarterback, and of course he comes in and helps them beat Tennessee. That was the one big home game that they won. And so, do you have confidence in who your number 2 is going to be? And we don't even know who the number 2 is going to be.
Well, yeah, there's still a battle there.
There's a battle there. But Petrino said, yes, I do have confidence. He said the thing you have to do with your backup quarterback is you have to evaluate what's he good at. And then from this point on, going into the fall, you have to get that guy ready to do the things he does well. You reduce his game plan. You don't have him doing all the things Taylor Green's going to do. So you take the problems out of his game and put the strong stuff in there. And so whoever wins that backup job, that's what they're going to be doing with that person from here on out.
Bobby's really high on Madden, though. I mean,
he said a lot of good things.
He compared him to Lamar Jackson. Yeah. He said he reminds me of Lamar Jackson in his freshman year.
So we'll see how that works out. His numbers were not that impressive. The thing about Jackson is he completed 70% of his passes. When you get up to that level, you're doing a good job. You're watching, you're throwing to people that are open. You're not making mistakes. Yeah. And the thing I like about him is that when I've watched him, he doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't have a cannon for an arm, but he can zip the ball 8, 10, 12 yards and spot people. And then he can also run. He's not going to go 60 on you like Taylor Green, but if it's 3rd and 7 and he spots an opening, he can squirt through there and get you 7 yards. Yeah. So I'm pretty high on him. Now, when you start talking about running backs, Braylon Russell had 4 yards.
Had 4 yards or 8 yards?
I think it was it 4?
I think it was 4 carries for 8 yards.
Yeah. Petrino had this press conference where he really played him up.
I know, we're going to talk about
that. How he'd lost some weight and he was more explosive and he was doing this and that and even catching the ball and all that. And then he kind of goes, in this scrimmage. So, and then, what was he doing when he was talking about the other guys? I mean, he talks about Rodney Hill and he says, he's good, but he's little and he can get hurt, so he has to stay healthy. Well, Rodney Hill, now that was before this scrimmage, but he had 5 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. And if you saw that one run, which is online, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I can get it that you're worried he might get hurt. I mean, he's like 5'10".
Yeah, he's a little small.
195 if he weighs 195. But he talked a lot about Mike Washington. He's the transfer from New Mexico State. Mm-hmm. Because he got most of the work. He had 12 carries. So clearly what Petrino's doing in that scrimmage is he wants to see more of him.
Okay.
So he lets him carry him 12 times, 60 yards. That's not great, but he also had a touchdown.
Yeah.
So that's what we're talking about here in terms of what those guys did. There wasn't a lot of talk about, I don't know when you start looking at defensive stats, I don't know what that says. It's harder to evaluate the defense. But they did have almost 300 yards passing. I'm sorry, they had over 400 yards passing, almost 300 yards rushing. So it looks good on paper, but again, as I look at this thing, it doesn't look like it was some sort of massive success. It just looks like everyone kind of did okay.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
Do you think it could be, and this is we're allowed to go watch these scrimmages. We're allowed to go report on them. Now, we're not allowed to film them, right? We're not allowed to do that. Now, the university will put out videos, but because it goes back to what Travis Williams said, right, on Thursday. And because I thought this bite was interesting. I posted it on my social media. I think you saw it. Where he was asked, is there someone who's flying under the radar? Is there somebody that, you think, and he's like, normally 5 years ago, I would have answered your question. But with the portal now, we're all being really careful about not giving away too much. Do you think some of that is playing into this?
Absolutely. In fact, when he ended up saying they're all looking good.
He did, exactly. So I don't know if you should really go, right, you said it's nothing to really, wow, this is amazing, or oh, this guy. Maybe they're just like, everyone needs to do what they need to do. And that's it. That's all we're going to give anybody. I don't know.
I don't think we're going to see a lot out of the spring game.
Yeah, I don't think so either, but I think it's...
What they typically do is they do what we call scripted for success, which means that your one offense is going up against your 2s and 3s on defense, and your one defense is going up against your 2s and 3s on offense. So it makes the one offense and the one defense look really good, but they're not really tested that much.
Yeah.
And then they kind of let all those other guys in the second half battle it out, and everyone gets mad and leaves because you don't have Taylor Green out there and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But try to picture, and I guess this thing is on TV, is it?
No, it's not being. No, it's not being televised.
So it's not even on SEC Plus.
No, it's not being televised. You have to be there in person if you want to see it.
And I think there's a reason for that.
Yep.
Because they don't want, if you want to know what they have, you're going to have to send a coach off your staff to go and scout that. Yeah. And he's going to have to walk in there.
But we're also not going to show you everything. I don't think they're going to show you everything.
That's my whole point.
Yeah.
They're not going to, with the portal being the way it is, they're not going to open this thing up where you can come in and go, boy, that guy looked good. Let's offer him some money.
Yeah,
see if we can get him. They don't want that.
No, exactly. And so I think that plays into even the scrimmage because we're allowed to the scrimmage. If it was a closed scrimmage, I feel like there'd be more in there, right?
To me, they've got two choices. And the one choice is obvious. Get rid of this portal after spring. Make there be one portal window open right after the season is over.
Yep.
When they're doing their recruiting for next year, both in the portal and high school recruiting, do it all at once. And then you know going into your winter program who you got coming back and who you don't. And don't give people an opportunity to jump and leave, after they've gone through the spring. Yeah. Because the other alternative to that is what we're seeing, which is why should you even have a spring game?
Well, that's what a lot of programs are doing
Don't let anybody see squat. Go in there and work out and don't say much and have press conference and go, yeah, everybody looked good.
There are programs doing that this year. There are programs doing that. So that's why I think it's like when we go to practice and people go, what are you seeing how the team? I'm like, I think it's I don't think we're seeing much. That's what I'm saying. I think they're doing things behind.
This is why I think some of the reporters, out of frustration, started doing their own depth chart because they didn't have a depth chart. Yeah. If you're not going to give me one, I'll just make one on my own.
Yeah, and I think you're exactly right. So I just wanted to bring up that point for everybody when we talk about the stats and when we talk about what we're seeing out of spring ball. I just think it's important to realize I don't think we're going to get all of the bells and whistles that we kind of have to look at it through rose, a different color glasses,
right.
Whatever you want to say. We're going to talk a little bit more about spring ball because Whippersnapper asked, and we kind of mentioned a little bit of this, but what are your takeaways of Bobby Petrino's spring interview?
You know what he ended up saying? He ended up talking a lot about Taylor Green.
He did.
And saying it's really helpful to know that your starting quarterback knows the offense, knows the blitzes that he's going to face, and knows the SEC and knows what to expect. That's a big plus.
You know who else is saying that? His teammates. Yeah. His teammates. Andrew Armstrong said that when I had him in studio last week.
Good.
So, I agree with you there.
However, what he ended up saying about the rest of the team is this. I've never had a team that changed so much from one year to the next as this. In other words, I'm looking at more new faces than I ever have. More than half the offense, more than half the roster on the offensive side are new guys. Now, look at receiver, for instance. I saw 7 or 8 guys that caught passes, and then he was mentioning some other ones. So somehow they've got to pare this down because we know Taylor Green does not like to throw to 8 different guys. He'll pick 2 or 3 out that he likes, and he's going to target them.
Yeah.
So they have to figure out who those guys are. So that's part of what spring is. You've kind of come to some conclusions. I think we'll sit down this summer and continue to evaluate so that when August camp starts, they've pared this down a little bit. Okay, we're going to look at these 3 guys, these 4 guys, and then they might have to make some adjustment, but at least they have a starting point. Now, with the running backs, the same thing. You got one guy, Rodney Hill, back that you know what he did in the bowl game. You got Mike Washington come in and look at, again, what I said. Petrino had him run more than anybody else because I think he's got big plans for him because he's bigger.
Yeah.
And he figures he'll be durable. He's not sure about Hill and whether he'll get injured or whatever. So,
And you have Braylon Russell. We can't forget about him.
But he just didn't do what they needed him to do in this scrimmage. Now,
there could be a lot of reasons for that.
Might have been not feeling good or something.
We don't know.
But again, I just think Petrino has always been pretty honest, pretty open. He's not a guy that sugarcoats anything. And the impression I got from him is, we got a really good starting quarterback, and I'm glad to have that. The rest of it, I got to figure out what it is.
I got to figure out a lot of stuff. Yeah. It's kind of what it sounded like to me. I also like the soundbite he had where somebody asked him about doing the Excel sheet with Taylor Green. He said, "What's Excel? What is that?" I just get on the computer and do football. It's my favorite quote from Bobby Petrino right now.
I know exactly what he's talking about because I'm in here working on computers and I have this rudimentary knowledge, and then I say to you, hey, this thing disappeared, what happened? And you come over and you show me where it went, but then you start trying to tell me what to do after that. And I'm going, get out of here. I just needed that one little problem solved. You can go away now.
Mike, I'm trying to teach you how to do things.
No,
you know?
then you're going, what about this? What about that? What about this? And I'm going, all that stuff is okay.
You know, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. You heard that?
Whatever.
You know, I can do that for you. I try. Okay, I try. Little pig man says, good for Tennessee. It's about time somebody stood up against these overpriced players and the parents and the agents. I predict this kid's going to be a bust in college and pro ball. Wow.
Okay,
All
so
right.
Nico Iamaleava.
Yep, that's who we start. Good job, Mike.
Nico.
High five for that one.
Nico, I won't remember that.
That you will, I promise.
Nico apparently has been telling them for a while now, gee, I need some more money. Apparently now what we're learning is he was even bringing this up last year before the bowl game.
Yeah.
Because he was saying, look, whoever was doing this, whether it was him, his agent, his parents, or whatever, and saying, well, now this extra game is going to bring extra money for you, so it should bring extra money for me. And then he kind of takes that into the spring, and I guess they went back and forth. And Josh Heupel eventually just said, I'm not putting up with this anymore. Whatever, you're not worth double what we were paying you. You didn't have a great year. You had an okay year.
I mean, $4 million?
Yeah. So everyone is falling all over themselves, patting Josh Heupel on the back for doing this.
Yeah.
And I applaud him too in this one respect. This stuff has been happening, but we don't hear about it specifically. Like all that stuff that went on with Braylon Russell.
Yeah.
No one came out and said what was going on. We just heard the rumors. In this case, they brought it out. They openly talked about it. So that's good that somebody finally stood up and went, hey, you know, this guy wanted this money and we didn't want to give it to him, and we felt like we were going into the spring and he needed to be more committed. We could talk about this later, but he wanted to talk about it now.
And you didn't show up to practice.
You didn't show up to practice and you weren't ready for the spring game, so bye-bye.
Bye-bye, yeah.
So in that respect, he got a lot of people across the country. The good thing about this is people are now coming forward everywhere. These aren't Tennessee fans. These are people everywhere going, good. It's about time somebody stood up to these people, these players, their agents, their parents, and said, hey, this is our game. We go and we fund it with our tickets, and we're tired of this stuff.
Yeah.
We want people that want to come in and win games, not sit around and count, well, I got this much, but I need to get this much.
These players want to be treated like pro athletes, right? And what happens in the NFL if you don't show up to practice?
Exactly.
You get fined. You get fined.
So I give Heupel credit for this, but let's not just bend over and slap him on the back, because guess who started this? Guess who started this 4 years ago, 3 or whatever it's been?
Yeah.
It was Tennessee and 2 other schools that basically their boosters filed lawsuits to prevent the NCAA from enforcing its NIL rules. We've had no rules now for 3 seasons, and this is what we've come to. So now, guess what? The school that started this is going, hey, we need help. This is terrible. They're holding us hostage. So finally you got it, Heupel, Tennessee. I'm glad you did, because it is bad, and you started it. So don't act like you're so cool.
Karma. A little bit of karma,
Yeah,
right? A little bit of karma.
But
A little
yet
bit of karma.
I'm still on their side.
Okay,
Now,
yeah.
the deal is if we had a Congress that was actually in session right now, but of course, they're on vacation.
Oh, yeah, they have to be.
They're on, I guess they have spring break in Washington. I don't know what they do. They were considering this revenue sharing thing before this, but then they went, we're going on vacation. So we don't know for sure when they're going to do this, if they're going to do it, because there were still some questions.
Yeah,
I guess
there was.
some of these people were still asking about NIL and judges and lawsuits and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it gets passed. But this is happening at a good time, I think, because now those people that want it passed can say, look what just happened at Tennessee.
Yeah.
And look how people are reacting to this all over the country. Something's got to be done.
Yes, I think
So
it's a really good timing for it. Yeah.
Something will happen sometime this summer.
That would be great, because also you look at what's happening in college basketball right now, and the guys going into the portal are asking for obscene amounts of money, and you're going, what? Why are you asking for $2 million? That's insane. But they know that this is maybe going to be their last-ditch effort to make some money. And so I think Nico realized that too, but bit him in the butt, so to speak. Lanny asks, is it fair that Arkansas freshman QB Madden Iamaleava is getting put under a microscope because of what his brother did to Tennessee?
Probably not fair, but it is what it is. You can sit here and say, well, he's not his brother. He wouldn't do that. We're not going to know if this problem doesn't get solved. Here's what I'm telling you. If I'm Bobby Petrino, if I'm Sam Pittman, and next year we've got a battle between this little brother and KJ Jackson, I don't have to give an explanation. At the end of the spring, I go, I'm not going to take a chance on him. KJ Jackson's the starting quarterback. Because you name the other guy the starter, this Madden Iamaleava.
Yep.
See, I can read that.
Yeah, you wrote it out. I love that.
I'm going to say, I don't have to say anything about, this is about what his brother did, but it can be in my mind.
It can be, yeah. And it does, whether we like it or not, sometimes when family does stuff, you get roped into. It affects
the other one, even if he's completely innocent.
Yeah, even if
So it's not fair, but so what?
Even if he turned around to his brother and went, bro, what
Moron,
are you doing?
Look what you did to me.
Exactly. I don't think it's fair, but I agree with you there. Marty Bird's Proxy says, big shakeup at Tennessee. Is this another trend that may develop in this ever-evolving saga called NIL?
No, I don't think it's a trend because I don't think it's going to last long enough because I think this is the tipping point. Mm-hmm. This got everybody all over the country mad, and I think this blends over into next year with Nico. Let's see what he does. Let's see how this affects him because everybody's mad at him now. Okay, let's see who wants him. Does Georgia want him? Who's looking for him? Who's going to steal him now? Who's going to pay that $4 million?
Well, does he even get $4 million?
If you give him that and bring him to your school, what if you automatically trigger everybody else against you? You know what I'm saying? You bring this unpopular guy into your program. It could backfire on you.
I don't think right now he's very likable, even to fans. Even if you're, if you're a fan,
if you're Georgia or whoever, some people are saying North Carolina because whack-a-mole NFL coach is there.
Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
And you could bring him in there, but I believe even in places like that, a lot of fans are going, we really want this guy?
I mean, I would say that, again, his name is being dragged through the mud right now on social media. So I guess fans can overlook things very quickly, I guess,
I'm just saying, I don't think this is going to continue to be a problem because I think this was the tipping point. Mm-hmm. I think that revenue sharing is going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think this is going to be an issue next year, and I think we're going to see some sort of contract that you have to sign where you can't do this.
Well, hopefully, and I've said this many times on this show, Mike, how many times have I said, can you just make them employees of the university?
Exactly.
Get them under, if they want to be treated like professional athletes, make them employees of the university, make them sign a CBA or a collective bargaining agreement like they do in the NFL, like they do in the NBA. Right. Do it.
And then
this is my plea.
All of that goes away.
That's what I think too. Hopefully, fingers crossed, that this wakes some people up, especially in Congress, and go, whoa, this isn't good. Hoggy Style 78 wants to know, is keeping up passing grades even a thing anymore? Can't remember the last time I heard of a player being academically ineligible. Hearing some players from Colorado taking all of their classes online and never even went to campus.
Okay, no, we've checked, and the academic progress rate, the APR, which has been in place for 10 years or so, is still there.
Yeah.
You have to pass a certain number of hours at the end of each semester, or you're ineligible and you have to go they take you off the team. You're technically not part of the team, and you have to go to classes and make it up before you can be reinstated.
Yeah.
So all of that's still in place. Now, this online thing, yes, you can go online. There's no limit to the number of online classes you can take if you're an athlete. And why is this being allowed? Because of the travel. And especially when you get into a sport like baseball where you're playing so many games and you're traveling so much, there's just no way they could always show up for class because they're missing 2 and 3 classes while they're gone.
Yeah.
And you're going to get so far behind that you can't catch up. But if you're doing this online, it's structured to allow you to do this. Now, here's the danger in that. Whoever's monitoring this, and it should be the academic side plus the online instructor themselves, that person has to be very responsible.
They usually
because if they start letting these athletes slide, and I would just tell you that if you go back far enough, there were some incidents that came out and it never got publicized very much, but there was some pretty strong indication here, even here at Arkansas, that there were some guys on the basketball team, and this was years ago, that had a academic advisor that was arranging for other people to take their tests.
Right, yeah.
And so I think they quickly corrected that situation when they became aware of it, but this can happen anywhere. And it is up to the school, the academic side, to stay on top of that. And then if you're an online instructor and you start doing this, you start allowing athletes to kind of slide and skid by this stuff, and you go, oh, well, it's okay, you didn't have to take that test, or you didn't have to do that. You're going to get caught sooner or later.
Well, you're going to get caught more likely in an online class than an in-person class. And the reason why is because everything is tracked. Yeah. Everything is trackable. And so
you can get fired over this.
You can get fired over it. And I'll say this. I've seen the other side of things, because when my dad was coaching at Florida Tech, my mom was a professor of some of his athletes. And I would always go, Mom, how do you balance that? How do you she goes, oh, I'm on them harder than I am with normal students. Where she would go straight to my dad and go, this player needs to turn in his assignments. Otherwise, he's going to be academically ineligible. And so it is the reason why you're not hearing about it as much, to Hoggy Styles' point, is because universities have gotten so much better at tracking this. They've added more tutors. They've added more things to help these athletes do better in their classes. And with the integration of online studies, it's helped them out so much more. You're not getting kids who are going to be academically ineligible, because the universities are going to do everything in their power to not let that happen. And another good example is the Gator basketball team. There was a little funny video that they put out, is what class do you have to go back to on Tuesday? And some guy said, oh, bio, oh this, but a lot of them said, what? I do all my classes online. I caught up on all my assignments before we left for March Madness, and some of my teachers have allowed some extended periods to get some assignments done after it's over. So again, they're gonna do everything in their power to not let this happen. So that's why you're not seeing kids become academically ineligible as much as in the years past.
You don't necessarily know when a guy's academically ineligible, because they don't just kick him out of school. What happens is they are removed from competing and practicing. They can't come to the athletic facility until they make their grades up. But sometimes that can happen without publicity.
And it can, because the one that you hear about it all the time in is what? Basketball, because it's over 2 semesters. So if a guy is failing classes in November and December, he may not be academically eligible for the conference slate, right? And that's when you'll hear about it. But football, they're pretty good about keeping it tight, because they're like, okay, even if you don't participate in spring, they could say, oh yeah, he's not participating in spring, or he's hurt. You wouldn't know. Same with baseball. Baseball's another good example of, okay, a guy's not playing in fall ball. How closely are we watching who's playing in fall ball? For Dave Van Horn, oh, okay, this guy's academically ineligible. Let's get his grades up so he can participate in the season for us. So again, you're hearing about it a lot in basketball because it's over 2 semesters, and that's why it's just more there. But Hot Dogger says, I think the nervousness over Calipari's recruiting is a little unwarranted. To me, waiting to see what shakes out after the NCAA championship may give him a shot at better players out of the portal. This is what I've been saying.
Yeah, you've been pushing that point, which is, if you go back and look at what he did last year, it's no different. He's taking the same approach that he took last year. And for whatever reason, there's just more concern about that right now, because I think they see a lot of other schools with more activity up until now. Yeah. So you're saying be patient.
Because they're jumping on people. They're jumping and dishing out their money quick.
Yeah, I don't assume anything, so I don't trust or distrust Cal. What I do know is I still want to know what's going on.
Everybody does. Everybody wants to know what's going on. You do not understand the amount of stress I have had the past week from my phone blowing up. You know this, Mike, because I will get something 1 second and I'll go, hey guys, this is happening, and I watch out for this. And then the next second I've got, no, it's not happening. We're going to talk about that, because I think our next question is about that.
It doesn't bother me because I blow it off completely. And when somebody comes up to me and go, and I go, when he shows up, he shows up. I've always had that attitude about recruits, portal transfers. I only become interested in them when they sign and I know they're within the program.
I understand, but we need something,
I know.
okay?
That's
we
why
need
that's why we
something.
have Otis and Kevin and you and people that get into this stuff.
But I still need something because I'm going to get into that.
Okay.
Because last week I was feeling confident we were going to get some news.
That's
it was silent last week.
We've got a guy mad about it that never gets mad about anything.
I know.
This guy, and I know him, and he lives in Kentucky, and he's turned into Mousetown.
Oh no! Oh, KY Hawk has turned into Mousetown.
He's turned into Mousetown.
Oh gosh, KY Hawk is our next question, and we're going to see why Mike says he's turned into Mousetown. You told us last week to hold our horses on Cal's recruiting, but if there was no news by this week, maybe we could get concerned. Well, it's Sunday night, and I'm still waiting. Do we have Ewan and Pringle or not? He continues with, what about a scoring guard to replace Nelly? Is Amick going to Duke, Louisville, or Arkansas? Is Wagner leaving? Tell us something.
And I know nothing. Supposedly, the two centers have either been here or are here now, right now.
Ewan is what I've heard from really good sources.
Has anybody seen him?
Apparently, yes. He was on campus. I just think there's a lot of moving parts. And maybe we should just sit back and let it happen.
But you also believe that this, whatever his name was, that was the top scorer out there, averaging 21 points a game, that supposedly was interested.
Is it Pierre? Are you talking about Pierre? Who are you talking about? Wilkerson?
No, Pierre.
You're talking about Pierre?
Yeah. That somebody's offering him more money.
I think, the rumor is that he's going to Ole Miss. Has that been confirmed yet as of right now when we're recording this?
Then we can hate him.
We can, yes, we can hate him.
Because he's going where Bozo guy is.
Where Coach Beard is?
Beard, Coach Chris Beard.
You have nicknames for everybody. I'm trying to figure. But that's what I've heard. Does that mean it's true?
We can dislike this guy next year.
We can. But right now, I think this is hard to say, okay?
And then if he is going there, then maybe Wagner's not leaving after all.
Maybe, or maybe they're looking at somebody else and that's why he's going there.
Maybe.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that could be going on behind the scenes. What I know right now is that Cal is working. Cal is doing his job. And do I need to just trust him? Yes, I'm going to tell myself that because sometimes I need a good reminder of why haven't we heard anything? Why haven't we gotten any news? Because I want news. I know all of you guys want news, but.
Well, we both said last week that if we were out here a week later and we didn't have these answers, there would be reason to be concerned.
Mike,
and now you're saying when there's not.
No, Mike, because I'm just going to calm down. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to let it play out. And look, if we don't have anybody committing by June, then yeah, sure, I'll be concerned. But I'm just being facetious there. But I'm just going to breathe. I'm going to just let it play out how it's going to play out. The man is a Hall of Fame coach for a reason. I am not. So.
And I'm going to make mental note of those that could have come here and didn't, and then I'm going to hate them.
Okay, sure, you can do that. Give the whole list of everyone.
Because I'm pretty good about watching a game and projecting sheer anger at that person, and it gets through and knocks their game off.
You do that quite often, so you
You've
do
seen me
that.
do it here.
Yeah, I have
Watching
seen you
games
do that here.
And it takes them off the rails.
We do have another question about someone who is making some portal moves over Coach Cal, and that's Kelsey Music, because Top Hog 19 wants to know, what is your opinion of women's basketball coach Kelsey Music so far? She seems like an energetic coach who should fit in on the hill. Please, Courtney, don't beat up Mike this week. LOL. But no beating up Mike this week. I promise, none. But Mike, you're not going to bring up anything that will make me want to fight you.
Okay.
Okay, don't bring it up.
It looks like to me so far what she's doing is very predictable, because what is she doing? She's bringing ORU players in here.
Exactly.
How many is it? Two or three?
Two right now. Two
Okay.
right now, and then the third player she's brought in was Mayberry's daughter.
Yeah.
So
that's
from Kansas.
That's not bad. She's not brought in somebody that's scoring 25 points a game or anything. She's not brought in a 6'6" post player.
No, she hasn't, yeah.
Or a 6'5" shooter, or strong forward or whatever. So he hasn't done any of that stuff. We talked earlier about here's what she does. She improves a program in the first year. They get a little bit better in the second year, and the third year, that's when it starts working. So we got a while, and they're going to give her time. So I think everything's okay so far. All I know is she went to a Razorback baseball game and threw out the first pitch, and everyone seemed to like that, even though I I really thought, because
Okay.
she's a softball coach, and it's different with softball, you know, they under.
Yeah.
And so she's thrown.
You mean she's a women's basketball coach, not a softball coach?
Well, but women's sports. And
Yeah,
so
but
women's
yeah,
sports
but, you know.
used to the softball. So I knew she wasn't going to do that. But I did kind of notice that she did like that.
Oh my gosh, Mike.
Well, you didn't get the elbow action. If you're going to get out on the mound and throw out the first pitch, right, you got to get the elbow into it.
Yeah, you got to get the elbow into it.
You
You're
can't
right.
just shot put it.
Yeah.
So I guess that means she really didn't play softball or baseball. She was a basketball player. But don't basketball players throw passes, and don't they get their elbow into the pass? Big O always did.
Yeah, I mean, usually,
Well,
you
no,
can
Big
get
O
your...
wasn't doing that. He was turn around and throw it like that.
Yeah.
So we need to instruct her
Okay.
the next time she comes out to throw out a pitch for the first game. You get that elbow into it.
Okay, all right, get that elbow into it. That's Mike's help there for Coach Music. I have a sit down with her coming up, so I'll let her know in the sit down.
Okay.
And that's coming up on our website.
Now I've lost
so.
my ability to do that, by the way.
Yeah,
because,
could you throw out a first pitch?
Well, but here's how I know that.
Okay.
Because I got all these tree limbs that I'm trying to cut down, and so what you have, I've got a pole saw, but you got to have a rope over there and put it over the top of the limb so that as you cut it, you get somebody else to pull in it because you're trying to get it to fall in a certain place. If you just cut a big branch down, it hits the roof of your house or does crazy things, knocks down an electric line or all that. So you got to look at where you want it to land, and then you throw the rope over, and you got to wait. I got a weight on the end of it. It's a wagon wheel, a little small weight, and I throw it over that thing, and it loops over the branch, climb up on a ladder, throw it up over the thing, and then you kind of inch it along, and then you got it where you want it to be, and you pole saw the thing, and then as you start to get through then you begin to pull it in the direction you want. But what I noticed is when I climbed up, and all I'm doing is throwing a little wagon wheel, the rope kind of tied to it, and it should be no problem, just loop it up there. I'm weenie. I'm like, doink. I'm going, what's wrong with me? Well, I'm 76. Doink. And it doesn't do what I used to be able to do. Still got the elbow action, but the elbow is weak. It's just and so I'm missing the branch. It's going. I'm going. What in the world is that? So I have to have my kid come over and climb up and throw it because I'm like. So I can't make fun of her too much for doing this.
I have this mental image of you, Mike, and it's very funny.
And it goes, here's the branch that's going.
Mike, just call us. Just let us know if you need help.
Well, could you do that? Climb up on that ladder and throw it, loop it over?
I mean, I was building a fence this past weekend. I was, lifting. I was, tossing stuff.
You don't really think about getting older until something like that happens, and then you realize what a goober you are.
I think you would make fun of me if I threw out a first pitch because I would be so nervous. I feel like my arm would be shaking, and so the ball would be just all over the place. And whoever was catching for me, if it was, whoever was behind the plate, would have been like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm pretty embarrassed about my ability to use the elbow now. The elbow action is still there; it just doesn't do anything. It just kind of goes.
Listen, can Arkansas baseball
There
have
must not
you
be
throw out
any
a first
power
pitch?
there anymore. It's just like flabby muscles.
I want to see it so much. You could throw it out at softball, maybe.
It goes like 2 feet above my hand.
What about softball? I bet you could get it over the plate in softball.
Well, you don't throw a softball. I couldn't do that.
Could you do that?
No, I never did that.
Okay, all right. I was trying to help you a little bit here. I was trying to make you look good.
I don't even think I could throw a baseball very well right now. I don't think I'd get it to home plate. If it's
I want to test that theory so much.
Boink and 4 bounces and it goes up to home plate.
All right, I'm going to give you more. I think you could. Mike. All right? We're going to test it. We're going to test it. That's going to be one of our special episodes of Ask Mike over the summer. We're just going to go
out somewhere and see if I can do it.
Yes, I want to know. I think that'd be fun.
I don't think I can.
Let us know in the comments if you think Mike could do that or not, because I think that's a fun thing that you guys can get involved in. But that's going to do it this week's Ask Mike. We'll see you next Monday to answer more of your questions.